There's melee characters with chainswords and flamethrowers, range characters with sniper rifles and plasma guns. There are psychers, which are basically magic users in space, and there's a whole lot of grimdark. Hey everyone, it's Nightharo here. Today I got a review for Rogue Trader, the new computer RPG by Owlcat Games. So you guys already saw the thumbnail and know that I recommend this game. Well, let's talk about why. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that there is amazing tactical combat in this game, a huge diversity of builds and playstyles, a compelling storyline that actually draws you in and gives you meaningful choices, which is, I'd like to say that's commonplace, but unfortunately it is not. Owlcat Games is also a great company that listens to player feedback and actually acts upon it, which again is a low bar you would think, but something that not many games companies do, and I think Owlcat stands out in that regard. There's also multiplayer, so if you're looking for a game to play with a friend, with a bunch of friends, with a spouse, what have you, this could be a great game for you. You can also count on long-term support, additional content, and quite a bit of replayability. If you take a look at some of Owlcat's other games, most notably Wrath of the Righteous, there are people that have hundreds of playthroughs on some of this stuff, and I think you can really count on them. They just released an expansion for that and additional content for it just recently. The other thing is Warhammer, right? If you are somebody who loves Warhammer and loves all things Warhammer, you probably don't need to watch the rest of this review. I would just go out and buy this game, right? And I say that as someone who is historically and will continue to be in the future very harsh on game companies. I have high expectations, and when they are not met, I definitely will speak my mind. And in regards to the Warhammer universe, I spoke with a community manager, Storak, at Gen Con, and a lot of the guys who are making this game play Warhammer, Storak included, and he's actually won a few tournaments. But this is somebody who plays the tabletop game, and there's a lot of love for the lore and respect for the Warhammer universe, and I think that comes through in the game. Now, with all that, there might be a few reasons you don't want to purchase this game, and I want to give a full review, so we'll talk about that at the end of the video. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about this in a little bit more detail. So tactical combat and game mechanics, what did I mean by all that? Well, there's quite a bit of strategic party choices you can make, who you want to add in your party, the different character compositions. There's melee characters with chainswords and flamethrowers. There's range characters with sniper rifles and full auto spray and pray type mechanics. There is psychers, which are basically for those who aren't familiar with the Warhammer universe, they're basically magic users in space, right? They can cast a lot of spells, nukes, healing, that kind of stuff, and plenty of other options, okay? And ways of combining teamwork, how many frontlines guys do you want? Do you want to go with a mostly range composition? Obviously, something more balanced is very important, but there's very much an interplay in the various roles that everybody plays, which I honestly think will lend itself quite well towards group play and co-op play. There's also ship-to-ship combat in the game as well, which it's very similar to the other combat, but it is different. It is its own distinct entity and has its own distinct upgrade path, and I could see them expanding upon that more in the future. There are injury and trauma, so long-lasting effects that can happen to your character if they are injured in combat. There's tools to help guide you through and make things not quite so overwhelming, because it is a very in-depth and tactical game, but I don't think that, it's not like you need to go out and get a PhD. That is one thing with Owlcat Games that I think I personally find it as a bonus, but some people I could see finding it as a negative, which is their games are very complex. But there are active defense mechanics, so you can parry, you can dodge, there's recoil on the weapons, there's damage reduction and penetration, which is the other side of damage reduction. In normal combat, you'll get a chance to move your characters into advantageous positions unless you're surprised, in which case you won't get that. There's an initiative system. You have movement and also action points as separate mechanics that you'll be able to control in combat. There is what's called a momentum bar, which allows you, if you're doing really well, it'll unlock ultimates, so you can kind of finish off the combat early. And if you're doing really poorly, it'll also unlock other different kind of desperate maneuvers that you can use to help bring you back from the brink if you are not doing so well in combat. And I will say, the first time playing the beta, whenever I encountered the first real fight, I died multiple times. Full party wipe before I got through it. And then I learned some things and came into it differently the next time. And I was pleasantly surprised with how difficult and how combat was. But once I understood a little bit more how I could use various tactics to increase my survivability and honestly just get a lot of enjoyment enjoyment about the game. You know, you can have AoE attacks, and there's lining up line of sight and all kinds of other stuff. And I'm not even mentioning all the game mechanics, okay? There are merchant mechanics, unlocking purchasable items. There's your favor with various factions that also affect things. So there's a lot of other mechanics in the game. And overall, I would say very rich. And I think they've heard the feedback of sometimes their games can be too complicated or feel too much like you need a PhD in the game to be able to play it. And I think they've done a lot of things to make it where it's kind of a smooth transition. But again, if you are looking to just sit down and play and have a really enjoyable experience and you don't want to think too much, I would just watch a basic guide. I plan on making one here on the channel, but there are already some others out there with those who have had more time to play the game. Slander Gaming here on YouTube, he's done quite a few guides and is very knowledgeable. Drop in, ask him some questions in the live stream, something like that. Go talk to him. If you want to see some gameplay and you want to hear more about the storyline, Bring It Dawn is going to be playing this quite a bit, and he'll be doing just like a from scratch. He doesn't look at anything early. He'll just be playing through the game and role playing. You could go check that out from him. All right, now let's move on and talk a bit about the storyline. So I will say, when I first played through this, I got sucked into the storyline and I lost track of time. And that's really weird for someone like me because I play tabletop RPGs multiple times a week. And that is really where I get my story kick, right? Because you can do anything in a tabletop RPG. You're not limited. And so most computer games, just because there's not a person on the other side of the computer, you know, they're limited in some aspect. And so usually I don't enjoy them as much. I honestly, again, I got sucked in, I lost track of time, and I found it really enjoyable. This is also, I think, a place where Owlcat has really shown that they've been good at making your choices matter in games, right? Like, like there's so many games. I mean, you could talk about Anthem, Starfield more recently, right? Where like you make a choice and you realize, oh, it doesn't really matter, you know, click to pay regrets, right? Like that whole meme. So, you know, Owlcat is not going to be doing that to you. So you're actually going to be able to make choices. My first playthrough that I do like live, I want to be a heretic. I'm going full heretic. That's what I'm going for. And we'll just see how it goes. I expect to die in all honesty, but that's absolutely a choice I want to make, and that's a direction I want to go. Another thing about replayability and the storyline and all that stuff, there are people, again, I mentioned this earlier, but there are people with like hundreds of playthroughs with some of their other games, and so you can pretty much count on that from Owlcat Games. Speaking of them, you know, another reason that that honestly all game reviews, and this is someone who would like to do more game reviews, you could honestly distill like 90% of game reviews. You don't need to watch the game review. All you need to know is about the company, what previous works they've made, and what's the general direction the company is going in, right? If you purchase, for example, a Bethesda game, you know that it's going to have bugs. It's going to have jank in it because all their games have always had bugs and jank. That has never changed. You could look at the direction and say, oh, what is their last release like? And the answer is, you know, not that great. Some people love it, but a lot of people did not like Starfield. It has some pretty bad reviews here on Steam. I would say that's true for any game company. Look at Owlcat Games. Do they listen to their community? Yes, they do. Do they try to make the best game they can? Absolutely. Are there limitations on that? Yep. They have a genre. They stick with that genre very much. I'm sure they will branch out eventually, but you know, they're doing one thing and they're doing it really well. And they're continuing to, you know, when some of their older games released, they had bugs in them. They had a lot of bugs in them. And that was frustrating for a lot of people. And each release has had incrementally less bugs. And I think that's part of the reason why there's such a robust beta playtest and everything on this game, is so that they could help cut down on those. And I think that that's the main thing you need to know about a company. And then with that, you know, the other 10% is like, hey, is this a style of game that I like? Do I like computer RPGs? And if the answer is yes, then I would say definitely buy this game. And if it's no, then maybe don't buy this game. And again, just taking a look at like some of the Steam comparisons here, you know, I'll compare it to the game that I main, right, which is Elder Scrolls Online. I know it's a different style of game, but that only has an 86% positive Steam review. And whenever you look at Wrath of the Righteous, which is the last game released by Owlcat Games, it's at an 89%. Okay, so if you like Elder Scrolls Online and you think you might like a computer RPG, or you know you like computer RPGs, I think you're safe purchasing this game. All right, so now I know there's many people that might be like, hey, this sounds like an ad for this game. None of this was ever paid advertisement. This is not a sponsored video. I'm pretty on the fence on whether I ever want to do those, to be totally honest with you, because I see myself as someone who works for the consumer. And so getting paid by the companies on the games that I might review or play seems like a conflict of interest to me. So far, I'm pretty against it, but we'll see. I don't know. So why would you not want to buy this game? Well, several reasons. If you don't like computer RPGs, if you don't like this style of play, if you want something that's less turn-based, more action-based, this might not be the game for you. Another thing is polish. If you're someone who, like me, I consider myself a late adopter of most games. And if you are someone who is just over it with bugs, tired of buggy games, then I would suggest if you wait 6 months, this game will have less bugs in it than it will at launch. I think that's just true. I think even with all the testing they can do, there's always going to be some bugs that they miss. So if you want a more polished game, this might be something you want to wait on. Another reason you might not want to purchase this game is maybe you don't like Warhammer or you don't like grimdark. I am definitely in this category of not liking grimdark. Like I don't mind grimdark actually. I just want to play the hero. And in Warhammer, there are no heroes. Like they've come out and said that, right? And there's also some issues with some of the imagery being very Nazi related, right? Like the Imperium of man is like not a good thing. They're not good people. And you see that as soon as you load into the game and kind of walk around a little bit, where like those who are lower on the rungs of power and control are considered as expendable and they're treated very horribly. And I personally just don't like that. Now, did I still enjoy the game and have fun? I did. And I still want to play this game, but that is a significant drawback for me. And it's really just because I don't like that aspect of the Warhammer universe. I mean, a lot of the lore is like really fun. It's like an 8-year-old boy wrote it. And, it's like, oh, this guy has a big gun. This guy has a bigger gun. Oh, this guy has an even bigger gun. And, it kind of gets to ridiculous proportions, basically doing that same thing. And you know what? My inner child loves that, if I'm being honest. And there's some other things that I think are really cool about it. But, the everybody's bad, everything's bad, everybody's evil, I actually don't particularly care for. And so that could be a major, like you might just never get into the story of this. And if that's the case and everything else about this sounds good, go try Wrath of the Righteous and give it a shot. And then the last reason I think you might not want to buy this game is if you were just into lighter games. And what I mean by that is rules heavy, compared to like rules light. There is a lot of mechanics, a lot of systems. Obviously, you can dial it down the difficulty to more like story mode, and you can have that good RP experience. And I think you would have a lot of fun, but there are still a lot of mechanics. There are still a lot of things in the game, and they will still pop up. You will still get a bunch of weapon choices. Even if you ignore most of them, they will still be there. There are a lot of systems. Again, these are all pros to me because these are things that I like, but you might not. But anyways, I think that's it for today. If you found this review helpful, or if you didn't like things about this review, do me a favor. Give me some feedback down in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you felt like I missed. I've only done a couple of game reviews, and I am sure that I can improve the way I do them. And the best way and the quickest way for me to be able to do that is to get feedback from you guys. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you in the next one.